Right, you lot. Gather around, because I've got a juicy one for you today. Activision, Call of Duty, rabbit hole deeper than your nan's knitting bag. We're diving into numbers, matchmaking drama, and white devs against players' silent treatment. Trust me, you don't want to miss this one. But before we get stuck in, don't forget to like, subscribe, and all that bollocks. It helps the channel grow and keeps me from living off pot noodles for dinner every night. Now, let's get to it. Right, so I stumbled across a video by Inkslash the other day. Now let me level with you, I don't usually bother with his stuff. Don't get me wrong, he's got production quality nailed, but guy can ramble more than your mate at a pub after 6 pints. Actual point? Buried somewhere in the last 30 seconds of a 15-minute marathon or waffle. But here's the thing, in this particular video he actually hit on something interesting. Activision, Call of Duty, and sheer monumental why hell want to listen to us vibes coming from player base. Now, Inkslasher reckons Activision don't care about us, players. Bold statement, yeah? He talks about how devs have basically hidden everything from player counts to matchmaking details of it years. You know, back in the day, you could log on Black Ops 2 and see exactly how many players were online. Transparency. A concept Activision has since buried 6 feet under. Now, this all started with Ghost. Player count in Black Ops 2 was still booming, while Ghosts were limping along like a 3-legged dog. So what did they do? Quietly remove player count altogether, sweeping embarrassment under the rug. And ever since then, no numbers, no accountability, just vibes. So Inkslasher reckons Activision don't care about losing players because they're raking in cash, microtransactions, bundles, battle passes, they're swimming in money like Scrooge McDuck. But here's the thing, losing players does matter, and I'll tell you why. First off, yeah, profits are up, in-game purchases are skyrocketing, but let's not pretend like that's sustainable when player base is falling off a cliff. Think about it. If they've lost almost 70% of the players on Steam, and we assume that same trend is happening on PlayStation and Xbox, what happens when whales, big spenders, move on too? You can only milk a cow for so long before it kills over. And let's not forget those player losses aren't just a number, the potential revenue. Every single player that leaves is one less person buying overpriced skins, useless weapon blueprints, or those god-awful anime crossover bundles that no one asked for. So while Activision might be patting themselves on back for breaking 10 billion in revenue, you gotta wonder, how much higher would that number be if they weren't pissing off the player base? Here's what's really happening. Activision's so obsessed with short-term profits that they're playing chicken with long-term health at franchise. Engagement optimized matchmaking, or EOMM if you fancy it jargon, ain't about making game fun. It's about keeping you playing longer, so you're more likely to spend. And yeah, that might work for a bit, but it's like using duct tape to fix a sinking ship. It won't last. Eventually players wise up, they get fed up with being manipulated and they leave. And when they leave, word spreads. Content creators jump ship, casual players move on, and suddenly they're left with a dwindling hardcore base that ain't enough to sustain ecosystem. Sound familiar? Yeah, it's same story every time a once great franchise runs itself into ground. Irony here is that Activision could fix this. They could dial back matchmaking manipulation, stop nickel and diming players, and, I don't know, listen to community. But nah. That'd require admitting they're cocked up, and we all know how much corporations hate doing that. Easier to slap another Snoop Dogg bundle in store and not we're too distracted to notice cracks in foundation. So no, Activision, losing players does matter, and you're not fooling anyone, except maybe Inkslasher. Let's talk about this matchmaking white paper. Activision proudly pats themselves on back for the data-driven player-first approach, but let's be real. It's all PR fluff wrapped around the core of corporate greed. I've gone through this document, and honestly it's about as transparent as a politician's expense report. Here's the deal. Activision claims the matchmaking system is designed to create fun, competitive experiences by balancing connection, time to match, and skill. Sounds nice, doesn't it? Except it's a load of bollocks. Because buried in fine print, it's real agenda, engagement, optimised matchmaking. They don't care about fair matches, they care about squeezing as much time and money out of you as possible. Let's break it down. Whitepaper admits that skill isn't top priority, connection and time to match are. That's fair enough, right? We all want a low-ping game that don't take ages to start. But here's the kicker. Skill-based matchmaking still controls who you play against, and algorithms designed to keep you on a psychological rollercoaster. A few easy wins, some soul-crushing losses, and just enough hope to keep you queuing up for one more game. Oh, but it gets better. Document also talked about team balancing, which is supposed to make matches fairer, except what it really means is punishing good players by saddling them with absolute potatoes. Have you ever carried your team so hard on your back it hurts, only to lose cause Timmy No-Thumbs keeps running into the same sniper? Yeah, that's team balancing in action. Then there's all skill adaptation nonsense. Activision brags about our system adjust your skill ranking after every match to keep things dynamic. But let's be honest, it's not dynamic, it's manipulative. They don't want you to improve too much cause then you get bored of stomping lobbies. But they also don't want you to quit cause you're getting stomped. So they engineer matches to keep you at a frustratingly average level. It's not about your skill, it's about controlling your experience. And yet despite all this optimization, they're hemorrhaging players. Why? Because system ain't fun, it's a grind, it's frustrating, and it's obvious. Players aren't stupid, they know when they're being manipulated. And here's kicker. Activision's own Whitepaper admits that tighter skill constraints hurt high-skill players, while looser constraints alienate lower-skilled ones. They can't win. It's a lose-lose scenario, and instead of fixing root cause, they're just doubling down on the same broken system. So yeah, Whitepaper might look like a scientific masterpiece to untrained eye, but to anyone who actually plays game, just confirmation that Activision has no bloody clue what they're doing. Or worse, they do know and just don't care. So let's talk numbers, because numbers don't lie, even if Activision does. We've already seen it, almost 70% drop in Steam players. And sure, fanboys are out in force saying, it's just Steam, most players are on console. Yeah, cheers Captain Obvious, but here's the thing, if Steam numbers are that bad, you can bet your ass same trend is happening on Xbox and PlayStation. Activision just don't want you to see those numbers cause they're too busy pretending everything's fine. Now let's get one thing straight, losing players is a problem. No matter how much money they're making from microtransactions, player loss equals less engagement, and less engagement means fewer people to sell those god-awful skins to. Don't even get me started on those crossover bundles. Snoop Dogg in Warzone? Really? No, it says tactical shooter like dropping in with Nicki Minaj. It's a bloody joke. But here's where it gets worse. Remember that matchmaking whitepaper we talked about? It's designed to keep players engaged for longer, but clearly it's not working. Why? Because game ain't fun. Players are sick of being thrown into lobbies where they're either getting stomped or have to carry the team a clueless random. Frustration builds up and eventually people just stop playing. And losses don't stop there. Content creators, lifeblood at community, are jumping ship. Why? Because even they can't defend this mess anymore. When was last time you saw a big name streamer hyped about Call of Duty? Yeah, exactly. They're either slagging it off or moving on to something else. And when creators leave, their audience follow. It's a domino effect, and Activision's sitting there watching it happen, shrugging like, meh, we've still got whales buying anime skins. You know what's mad? Back in Black Ops 2 days, you could log in and see how many players were online. Millions, by the way. It were a badge of pride for the franchise. Nah, the hype numbers like a dodgy second-hand car dealer. What do you mean mileage is missing? Don't worry, mate, it's fine. Yeah, no thanks. But it's truth Activision don't want you to hear. Those player losses are hitting their bottom line, whether they admit it or not. Sure, they're making billions now, but that's not sustainable when your player base is shrinking faster than your Nan's Yorkshire pudding recipe when you forgot eggs. Less players means less longevity. Less longevity means less money. It's not rocket science. And saddest part? All of this could have been avoided. Players have been screaming for years about what they want. Better matchmaking, less microtransaction shenanigans, and a return to what made Call of Duty great. But instead of listening, Activision's doubling down on the cash grab tactics, and it's driving people away in droves. So yeah, Activision, you might be making money now, but don't come crying when House of Cards collapses. Now let's move on to another dodgy subject. Buckle up for this one, folks. So in comments section in a recent Blame Truth video, someone claiming to be an ex-Call of Duty developer decided to go full whistleblower. And let me tell you, stuff they said at comment section buzzing harder than a wasp trapped in a beer can. Now let's address obvious. This could be complete bollocks. internet anonymity and all that. But where this person spoke, details they dropped, if they're faking it, they've done their homework. So what did they say? Now, just kind of stuff that makes you wonder if Activision's running some sort of dystopian gamer experiment. You know, standard Tuesday stuff. First, they mentioned our AI-driven coding is responsible for a chunk of bugs we see in-game. Apparently, trying to integrate AI-generated code with human-made code is like asking a toddler and a rocket science to collaborate. It's chaos. And get this, they estimate that 15 to 25% of games development involves AI. You heard that right. AI isn't just running your matchmaking, it's making bloody game. Explains a lot, doesn't it? Then there's question everyone's been asking for years. Is skill-based damage a thing? According to this ex-dev, no. But yeah, let me explain. Officially, damage isn't modified based on your skill, but certain weapon blueprints from store apparently have slightly tweaked stats. Smaller hitboxes, increased damage, you name it. So if you've ever wondered why you're getting melted by some idiot with fancy skin while your bullets feel like Nerf darts, well, there's your answer. Oh, and here's a fun one. Bots. Yeah, there are bots in multiplayer. They're supposedly limited to modes like ground war and large-scale maps. But kicker? They may be designed to act like real players, complete with player-like profiles. So if you've ever thought, hang on, that guy's playing like an AI, you might not be wrong. But real jaw-dropper? This ex-dev claims that upper management refers to players as common folk, basically implying we're all idiots who couldn't possibly understand genius of their decision. Lovely, innit? Don't screams player first like a company that actively disrespects its audience. Now here's where I stand. Is this person legit? Hard to say. They've dodged a few questions which raises eyebrows, but at the same time, the claims line up suspiciously well with what we've all suspected for years. Bugs, matchmaking shenanigans, AI integration, it's all stuff we've seen play out in real time. But here's the thing, this ex-dev is real deal, someone like Blame Truth, or else, even someone like me, needs to dig deeper. An anonymous interview, a proper grilling with hard questions. That's the only way we'll get to truth. Because right now, this is either leak at Sentry or ramblings of someone who's read way too much Reddit. Either way, it's bloody fascinating. Now let's get to real meat of this. Activision's apparent obsession with AI and how it's sending Call of Duty straight down the toilet. If that so-called ex-developer is to be believed, and honestly, a lot of what they said lines up, AI is running its show more than we ever imagined. And no, I'm not talking about matchmaking algorithms. I'm talking about AI-driven development, AI-designed player manipulation, and possibly even stealth AI bots posing as players. Yeah, it's a mess. Let's start with AI in game development. So according to XDev, 15 to 25% of game is now built with AI-generated code. And think about that for a second. Biggest gaming franchise on planet is cutting corners with AI. And then they wonder why game's buggier than cheap motel. Of course, slapping AI code into human-written systems is gonna cause issues. It's like Frankenstein's monster, except instead of terrorizing villagers, it's terrorizing players with broken spawn, dodgy hit registration, and UI glitches that make you question your life choices. Now let's talk about AI-driven matchmaking, aka engagement-optimized matchmaking. Whitepaper already made it clear goal in fairness. It's about keeping you playing longer, and more importantly, spending money. But what if it goes deeper? What if those stealth bots, XDev mentioned, are a real thing? Imagine playing a match where half the players aren't even real. They're AI-controlled players designed to keep lobby balanced and you engaged. Creepy, right? It's like Matrix, but for gamers. Then there's icing on cake, microtransaction. Activision's figured out how to use AI not just to keep you playing, but to steer you towards spending. Think about it. Those weapon blueprints with slightly better stats? That's not an accident. It's part of a bigger system designed to nudge you into buying best gear. And don't even get me started on cosmetic bundle. I mean, come on. Does anyone really need a pink SMG with sparkles? Apparently Activision thinks so, because their data says someone will buy it. But here's where this all goes horribly wrong. Players are leaving. Data manipulation, bugs, pay-to-win accusations, it's all adding up. And while Activision's busy chasing short-term profits, they're ignoring long-term consequences. Player trust is at an all-time low, and once that's gone, good luck getting it back. Look, I get it. AI is shiny new toy in tech world and every company wants in, but Activision's taking it too far. Instead of using AI to make game better, they're using it to milk players dry while doing absolute bare minimum. And if they don't course correct soon, they're going to drag franchise straight into the ground. So big question is, can Activision turn this around? Honestly, I'm not sure they want to. Drop your thoughts in comments. What do you think Activision needs to do to fix Call of Duty? Smash that like button, hit subscribe, and if you really want to support the channel, consider joining as a member. You'll get exclusive perks, access to Discord, and you'll help keep these rants coming. Links are all in the description. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time, you magnificent.